I rarely watch any other West Ham YouTube channels or follow West Ham on Twitter much these days, although I do watch Gio on Hammer's Chat every now and again to get a different view, a different slant on West Ham news. So it kind of passed me by that there was quite a lot of backlash on the team that Nuno selected for the FA Cup quarter-final against Leeds United at the weekend. And it was only after chatting with Wiggy and Paul Williams that I decided to check out what other fans had been saying. And it seems that there was quite a lot of anger, quite a lot of fan anger at the team selection. And there were suggestions that Nuno had bottled it, that he threw the game, that he deliberately selected a team to lose the tie. Now, I won't lie, I don't believe this to be the case. But at the same time, I believe that Premier League survival is probably Nuno's priority at this moment in time. In his earlier days as manager at West Ham, Nuno did make some seriously questionable team selections and some dubious team tactics. But I thought he had passed that stage, especially after rebalancing the squad during the January transfer window. And since January, we've been more on the front foot. We've played some attractive football. We've won and drawn some really important games that not many fans would have given us a hope in hell's chance. In fact, we're back in the mix rather than having been cut adrift from the rest of the Premier League that we thought was going to happen. And since the game against QPR, which kind of kick-started our season again in positive mode, we've won 6 games, we've drawn 3, and we've lost 3 or 4 if you include the penalty shootout against Leeds. And when it comes to that, when it becomes a penalty shootout, it becomes a lottery, doesn't it? Now, of the 3 games that we drew, they were against Man United, Bournemouth and Man City. 3 teams that everyone was saying we would lose against. And of the 3 games that we lost, that were against Chelsea in a game that everybody said we were extremely unlucky to lose against. All right, we got drubbed 5-2 by Liverpool in a game which they had 3 deflected goals. And I guess the only game that I don't think we turned up since that QPR game has been the one against against Aston Villa away from home. We didn't put in a great performance in that game at all. But when it came to the FA Cup against Leeds United, I think people forget that we had quite a few players missing from the starting lineup. Mads Hermansen, who's now been installed as our Premier League keeper, was never going to play. So he wasn't going to, he wasn't going to be in the team. That was down to Areola, who's our cup keeper. I wonder if that's going to continue. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, he wasn't available either. After the Democratic Republic of Congo had gotten through to the World Cup finals, I think for the first time in 50-odd years or whatever, the president of that country threw a party and demanded that all the players stayed behind. Now, West Ham are making an official complaint to FIFA about it because it meant that Aaron Wan-Bissaka had missed the game against Leeds United. So whether we like it or not, that wasn't down to Nuno. That wasn't his fault for not selecting him. And then we had Dinos Mavropanos, if you remember, on international duty, got concussed, or there was a thought that he was concussed. And under the concussion rules, if a player is suspected of being concussed, he officially cannot play for a minimum of 7 days. And most players are usually given up to 2 weeks to recover. So he wasn't available either. And then Thomas Souček was on the bench, but maybe fans forgot that he played a grueling 120 minutes of football for the Czech Republic against Denmark to qualify for the World Cup only last week. And Nuno correctly wanted to rest Thomas Souček. He ended up having to bring him on at halftime anyway. And then we've got a further 3 players who were out injured. There was Callum Wilson, there was Jean-Claire Todibo, and of course, Crysencio Somerville. Now, what was Nuno really meant to do? Should he have picked players that were deemed not fit enough to play because of their injuries? Now, imagine, for example, if Nuno had decided to play Somerville and rushed him back only for him to pick up another injury, the same injury, and made it worse. Now, Somerville did take a late fitness test for the game against Leeds, but it was deemed it was too risky to play him. And quite rightly so. Can you imagine the outcry from the fan base, the meltdown that would have happened If Nuno had decided to play Crescencio Somerville, if Somerville made his aggravated his injury and then was not available for the last 7 games of the Premier League season. Or imagine if he'd picked Souček from the start after knowing that he had a tough international game just a few days before. And again, the same. Because of the tiredness, because of playing that many minutes, if Souček had picked up a knock, again, he could have been out for some or all of the games that remain. Look, we've got 24 players in the senior squad, of which 5 are from the academy. Oli Scarles, Ezra Myers, Mohamedou Kante, La Madrid, and Freddie Potts. Now, some of these players have actually shown promise, and Nuno, I think, was right to put faith in them for the game. But it wasn't to be. What we can all agree on is the board's incompetence in the fact that we have such a weakened squad in the first place. You know, the fact that they've mismanaged our finances, that we've had to move players on. That's who I think we should be blaming. But to suggest that Nuno threw the game, in all honesty, that really does seem a little bit far-fetched for me. I don't think he did. I don't think Nuno threw the game. I don't think he went out there with the intention to lose. Nuno had to balance what was available to him. And Nuno saw how the game was going. It wasn't going our way. So at halftime, he made the changes. He made positive changes by taking Freddie Potts and Songutu Magassa off. They were ineffective. They weren't dominating the midfield. In fact, they weren't doing much in the midfield at all. And he brought on 2 players that he was hoping to keep completely fresh for the game against Wolves this coming Friday, in Souček and Pablo. I think if Nuno really, really wanted to lose the game, then he wouldn't have made those changes, would he? He would have just left it as it was and just let us carry on and let us suffer in midfield. Look, if there's one player that maybe out of the squad that we had, the players on the bench, etc., that maybe could and maybe should have started, that would have been Mohamedou Kante in place of either Potts or Magassa. And maybe, just maybe, that might have made a difference. But maybe Nuno has got plans for for Kante. Perhaps he might be considering him for something in the game against Wolves on Friday. I'm not suggesting he'll start, but I wonder if Kante has gone right up the pecking order for Nuno. So we as a fan base, I think we've got to stop with the conspiracy theories and the subplots. Sometimes it's just cut and dried. You know, we've got to remember that even with the team that was out there, we had 4 academy players who finished the game. But with the players out there, we got back into the game. We hit the woodwork 3 times. We had 2 disallowed goals, and we lost the game through the lottery of penalties. That doesn't look like, to me, a manager that was going out there to lose the game. I think it's absurd to even think that. But tell me what you think. If you think I'm wrong, then say so. But I really, really don't think, of course, the Premier League is important. And now Nuno has made his bed. He's got a lie in it because we're out of the cup. And now it really, really is all about staying in the Premier League. And Nuno's got to put out a strong enough team in order to get us through the game on Friday night. My understanding is now, a good thing is that all the players, Todibo, Mavropanos, Somerville, Callum Wilson, they're all back. They're all ready to go. And Aaron Wan-Bissaka is back in the country. He was training with the team on Tuesday, so he's back and available. So we've got a number of players back who are obviously going to be in the starting lineup or certainly, feature from the bench this coming Friday night. It's going to be a much stronger team. And I'm predicting a win. We've got to win. I guess even more so now, given that we are out of the cup. Of course, I'm upset that we're not going to Wembley. Like everybody else, I think every fan was really looking forward to a decent day out at Wembley. And who knows what would have happened in the semi-final on neutral territory. But it is what it is. But did Nuno really throw the game against Leeds United? I don't think so. If you've enjoyed the show, if you've enjoyed what I've talked about, etc., please do hit the like button. Please do subscribe to the channel. Something's going to appear. There you go. The QR code has appeared in the top corner there. Click on that. It goes straight through to the subscription page. It's free of charge to become a subscriber. Please do that. Please hit the like button. Please hit the hype button. And I'll see you all again pretty soon.